what's your thought? Like, is it always good to raise money at the highest possible price as much as you can, or is it?
Well, it really depends. There are many factors that go into it. Certainly if you can get a great valuation, you can raise a bunch of money. That's it's a nice situation to be in, and a lot of that has to do with timing and momentum, and there are many, many factors, the economy, et cetera. But that's just one strategy for raising money. There are lots of other different approaches, and a lot of it, though, a lot of people think, okay, we raised money, cool, we're successful, and you don't realize that actually that's when the hard work really, really begins. Yeah. And so we raised that round, and we didn't raise any more money ever again.
Oh, really? So
that was it. Yeah. That was it. And at that point, we just needed to get to cash flow positive. And so I had to very painfully cut out our whole consumer business, laid off 45, 50 people in the process. That was the first time I'd ever laid off anybody. It was devastating to me. Yeah. And these are people, as you know, how hard it is to recruit as an entrepreneur, and then you take all of that work for those amazing people and you just throw it away. It's devastating, and they're upset. And then of course I made the classic entrepreneurial mistake of not laying off enough people, right?
So you did it twice.
So I had to do another one, literally just a quarter later, and which I was in denial on for a couple of months, And then meanwhile, I'm like thinking to myself, because I was the CEO, the founding CEO, and it's a very hard job, as you know, to be founding CEO in a high pressure situation like that. And everybody else is like, well, what do you know? I mean, you haven't been CEO before, so how do you know this is the right strategy, right? And so ultimately, what happened was, when I did that first layoff, I thought, you know what? I need to hire another CEO. I'm learning on the job here, and this is like, I cannot have this kind of situation where, people's, professional lives are kind of hanging in the balance based on decisions I'm making, and I've never done this before. I've never run anything at this scale. So I actually ended up looking for another CEO. But that was an amazing moment in time for me, because what I realized was, I had this epiphany one night when we were recruiting and interviewing different CEOs, and I thought to myself, what's this new hotshot CEO person that I'm going to hire going to do? And all of these things that I had been in denial on, like there were some basic problems with my team and the way it was working that had gotten bad over the couple of years. We were spending way too much money and did, in fact, need to do another layoff. Our strategy just wasn't even remotely focused enough, even though I thought it was, but it really wasn't.
Your B2B one wasn't still focused.
Yeah, we had decided to go more toward a B2B model, but we ended up not doing it in a more just because anybody is willing to give you money, like WeServeHomes.com wants to give you $300,000, doesn't mean you should take them as a customer. You have to understand what your costs look like and what your ideal customer is, and then only ruthlessly target that customer base and not others, right? So then I had this epiphany one night where I realized, like, wait a minute, this is what the new CEO is going to do. They're going to do these 7 things. And they're going to fire some people. They're going to do this layoff. They're going to refocus the strategy and do this. And I thought to myself, well, why don't I just do that? Yeah. And so all the pressure around the investor stuff and the sort of self-conscious sort of notion of like, I'm the leader. I'm supposed to have the answers here, and all of the board and the investors and the employees and the staff. That all went away. And I just thought about, look, I'm ultimately not going to be the CEO, but here's what we need to get done in the meantime, and let's just go do it. And so that when we hand the company over to another CEO, it's in good shape. Mm-hmm. And so we did that, and we did it actually in like 2 weeks, and it was transformational. Mm-hmm. We had a strategy that everybody, including the receptionist, could articulate. We dramatically brought our costs down. We went down to, I think it was about 120 people from 200 plus. And we actually started winning customers. And over the course of, I thought it would take 18 months. It actually took about more like 3 years, but we got to cash flow positive.
And so you ended up being sort of powering, for example, I think like American Airlines and other customer service lines. So
yes.
Like when you call up, was it like is Amtrak one? I know I use Amtrak.
No, they're not. But we always wanted to get them. We never
like, hi,
did.
I'm Julie or whatever.
Yeah, we always liked Julie. Yeah, we never got that one.
But that's the kind of stuff you ended up doing.
That was the kind of and the big ones were 411. Mm-hmm. We ended up getting we do. I think TellMe now does about 40 to 50% of all 411 calls in the U.S. Wow. And those were very valuable calls. People used to pay $1, $1.50. Well, they still do to make a 411 call. And they cost a lot of money to service, and so we were able to automate those in a fundamental way.
So you're fundamentally selling a cost-reducing product, not a revenue increasing
which was
product.
Also, that's right, and which was also key in the bad economy, right? We were helping companies save tens, or hundreds of millions of dollars in their infrastructure because they had this very arcane telecom infrastructure. Then they had this, internet infrastructure, and they were two separate things. And we said, look, get rid of the telecom stuff and just run it off your internet stuff. And we did it as a cloud-based service too, which was interesting. So it was an annuity-based revenue stream. We charged per minute. It would take us 2 or 3 years to win a client. We called them clients because these were very long relationships. We only had 20 of them. But it would take us 3 years to win one, and then it would take us another year to go live. But once they went live, it would drive tremendous revenue.